The night sees a new avatar when lit up, showing us the cities of lights, creating an emotional bond with the citizens and visitors. And we at JAQUAR Lighting help them shine through. A leader in complete bathroom solutions, and now foraying in architectural and facade lighting in India. Right from project designing and planning stage to material supply and flawless execution. Our dedicated professional lighting, simulation and design teams and project management teams pan-India ensure top-notch quality and unmatched after-sales service.
Good evening, viewers. Indeed, a pleasure to welcome you back to second
evening.
edition of JAQUAR eConfab. I am MOHIT HAJELA, your convener for this special event today and representing JAQUAR Group. Transforming spaces after dark is tricky yet exhilarating experience. For end users who are totally bowled over by the magnificence of lit structures and landscapes, outdoor lighting promises to deliver much more today and definitely intrigues all of us. To some, it is sheer opulence. To some, it is thoughtful indulgence. However, for onlookers, it is sheer magnificence and grandeur that is truly mesmerizing. Going down a memory lane, outdoor lighting finds its first impression and expression coming from hospitality industry. Outdoor lighting beautifully enhances the distinctive intricacies and colorful landscapes of some hotels and resorts and simply throws light against others. The fact is, all lodging venues can be sumptuously illuminated, bringing them to life after dusk. The difference between lies in the factors some is installed and maintained, the quality of the fixture and technology used, along with its core purpose of highlighting the architecture and design. Outdoor landscape lighting isn't just smart decor, it's good business too. The success of the design depends on attracting guests, making them feel welcome, and providing for their safety while ensuring functionality nevertheless. Less said about how it enhances curb appeal, elevates guest experience, increase safety and security, create new outdoor banquet areas, increases energy and essentially maintenance savings. To deep dive initially, we have two very senior industry professionals, one a leading architect and the other a lighting consultant of both domestic and international repute, and thereafter a very accredited pool of panelists join in for a panel discussion on topic outdoor lighting in hospitality, inspiration and experience. Such a pleasure welcoming you on this forum, and over to you, Madhup. Now, I think we look forward. The audience is very keen to hear from you and from LINUS.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mohit, for such a generous introduction. And thanks, iDAC, for organizing this webinar for this very pertinent topic of landscape outdoor lightings for hospitality. I think you've already mentioned a lot. I don't have to introduce much about the topic. As you mentioned about the applications and perceptions of light, which is changing and emerging trends, I think Linus can talk more about, and we will straight away get into the panel discussion. But one interesting thing that I've noted is that I think human eyes are really trained to define lighting conditions in different parts of the world. Strangely, I do not know why in India and Dubai, people want a lot of lights. Maybe they are more exposed to always very high sunlights. But when you talk about Scandinavian countries, they're always seeing light 6 months of the day and darkness for 6 months in the year. they're very comfortable with very soothing low-level lighting conditions in their home. So also the geographic conditions, the people's culture, the lifestyle, and definitely the expectations of lighting levels of various parts of the world of the human eye, and also in the hospitality industry, is something to be noted together while doing the lighting design. And we should respect the night sky while doing lighting design. I think a lot of this is going to be discussed further in the topic. So, Linus.
Thank you, Madhup, and thank you so much, Mohit. Really good that you see the importance in this and the need to actually discuss these very important issues on light. It always surprises me that, for the human race that has been experiencing light and understanding it from, almost 25,000 to 50,000 years ago, some of our most ancient texts in their very first chapters, in their very first books, they talk about this healthy respect that they had for light. And yet lighting design is such a young profession. It's such a dichotomy that is very hard for me to understand. But the aspect of light affecting people is real. We are seeing it today in terms of health and well-being. But Madhup, the point that you raised about the cultural aspects of light is something that is akin to, the clothes we wear, the diet of food that we eat, which arises out of a certain cultural context of place, of weather conditions, of the way a person's day is spent, how much of the diet of light that a person receives in a particular day. And in studies that have been done for light temperature,
I believe it changes your choice for, I believe it changes you. It also affects your choice for what you eat or drink also. Maybe in a particular day, you have to add one more glass of wine, or in a food court, in a lighting like that, you like to have the next burger, So very interesting to note all these opportunities and layers of lighting, and there's so many final nuances. So I think we would straight away come to the panel discussion with so many stalwarts waiting on the other side. And we should start the introducing the panel. So let's start the panel discussion right away.
Wonderful.
Yeah, looking forward to a great session, Madhup.
Hello, everyone. Welcome everybody to this webinar on lighting design related to the hospitality projects. I think we are so happy that today we have with us some of the stalwarts in the design fraternity, and it's a topic where everybody has worked with because they have worked on hotel projects. And thanks to iDAC for organizing this event, and JAQUAR Lighting for supporting us for this event. So as we see today, the concept of lighting design has gone beyond its fundamental role of just illuminating a surface. A good lighting design has got its transformative power to change the quality of a space. It can animate a space, it can excite a space, it can infuse some different moods, or it can soothe down the space depending upon the kind of lighting design. And also that has got the power to transform a space beyond its physical elements. So lighting design, I think, should be a part of our integrated process of conceptualizing the project, and it should be right from the beginning of the designing that we should be thinking about lighting, and it should not come as an afterthought once the project is built. And so that's why we have all these stalwarts today, and we are so happy that all of you are here with us. Important to know that our topic is most to do with outdoor lighting and on hospitality segment, where outdoor lighting has its own challenge, many-fold than indoor lighting. Why? Because indoor lighting conditions are more static and more predictable. Outdoor lighting conditions are exposed to a lot of climatic variations, so you have to protect from the rain and the dust, and also sometimes it has to light up very large or very wide surfaces, and also with variable objects, including plants, which are always changing. So, and especially in the hospitality industry, what I find that all these finer nuances have to be taken care while designing. So straight away, let's start introducing the panel members on this who have come today for the discussion. So I'll start with, now introduce architect Anil Sharma from A. Sharma Associates, New Delhi. A. Sharma Associates is a professional consultancy firm offering services in the field of planning, architecture, interiors, and building engineering. They have undertaken and executed several prestigious hotel projects all over the country. Then we have architect Chandrasekhar Kanetkar from Chandrasekhar Designs Incorporated. His portfolio on the last 5 decades is very versatile and off the beaten track projects. He is popularly known for his architectural work for the Grand Hyatt Goa, where he was the only Indian architect invited to present his ideas at the hotel's headquarters in Chicago. We are happy to introduce architect George John from RC Architecture, one of the co-founders of RCA. George John is an award-winning designer for the last 20 years. As a design director, he is known for the designs that are highly functional, yet inspirational and aesthetically pleasing. Also, we have today the renowned lighting consultant, Mr. Linus Lopez from LIRIO Lopez Electrical and Lighting Design Company, New Delhi. And he has worked on various range of projects, right from hospitality to entertainment, heritage, and commercial projects. With a bachelor degree in electronics and master's in architectural design, he still believes that he's a student all his life. Also, we have got Mr. Gaurav Bhalla. He's heading the business development division and a very senior management position from JAQUAR Lighting. He's going to give us the inside stories. So straight away, moving into the discussion, I would like to start with architect Anil Sharma, or maybe my first question would, I'd like to start with architect Chandrasekhar from Chandrasekhar Kanetkar Design Incorporated. You have got a versatile range of projects that we have seen. So now, how do you see the emerging trends and significant changes in perceptions which is happening when it comes to lighting design of your facades of the outdoor environments? Are you seeing any visible change which is emerging across your large span of experiences in the projects?
Actually, every time we think of lighting, what I feel strongly is the lighting design and the technological innovations in lighting. They go hand in hand. And probably these technological innovations only keep changing the trends in lighting, in the sense, if the larger the palette, palette in terms of lighting fixtures available, and the new innovations available, flexibility in the lighting available, that dictates the terms for the lighting. And previously we had a lot of limitations, but I think with the LED in the market and the flexibility of the use of LED, whether it is linear or whether it is spot or whether it is a sculptural or any kind of thing, LED is a much versatile and much fluid solution for a lighting designer. He can use this lighting design. I can use this as a big tool for designing his lighting facades and all that. But when it comes to the facade lighting, as you asked me, it all depends on actually which building you are lighting up. If it is a commercial building right in the square of the city, probably it is much more illuminated in a bright way, like we see the buildings in the Times Square and the Fifth Avenue and like that. But if it is your hotel design and hospitality, and probably I feel the little bit of undertone is required, where we only try to catch the architectural features and put them in a little undertone manner, and not too much of a bright light is used, because there the landscape light and the facade lighting is hand in hand, goes together. Because as a lighting designer probably, or as an architect, we like to think that what is the leakage of the lighting in the landscape, and how much your building is going to absorb that lighting, and how much then we would like to enhance the architectural features, and how much lighting is required in that. So in all that designing, actually I feel there's nothing like a trend, but because like I first said, that the innovations in the lighting is much more important, and what is available, because the lighting in industry, the manufacturers also are every day experimenting and researching in the lighting, and every day there are new fixtures and new trends are actually put forward by the different lighting companies, and the lighting designer and we architects have to just choose what exactly is required by a client or by a particular location or subject. That's what I would put it.
So as I understand that every day the new, I mean, you have to really catch up with the rather the new series of products available and
Production available, yes,
innovating every day, and
right.
at least you should be sure of what you want to light up or highlight,
Yeah.
so that your intent is taken care of.
Right.
Great. So Architect Anil Sharma, my next question to you. You have got lots of hotel projects under your wings and prestigious projects. So like when you are talking of the facade, you must be, while designing the hotel and also even for that matter, any other building which is important, you must be taking care of the facade design from the day one, so that you can create opportunities for lighting, because this kind of projects are perceived very well also in the evening time with the lighting on the surface. And so how do you start considering the lighting design right from the elevation designs of the building? Or do you take it important?
Okay, Chandrasekhar did mention about the technology, but personally what I feel is that facade lighting, or the lighting actually has got three aspects. One is the building illumination, then is your landscape lighting, and then the interior lighting. Interior lighting is very easy because it's in a controlled environment. There are no variables there. Facade lighting is something which is, I think, the basic aspect of the design itself. As an architect, to highlight your architectural design concepts, one has to conceive how your building is going to be perceived during the night time, during the evening hours, and maybe later. So there are three kind of moods that may be required. One is the evening time when the ambient is still there, slightly this thing. Then of course, the peak hours between say 7 o'clock till about 11, 12. And after that, in the night, what kind of a mood that building or what kind of language that building is going to speak is very, very important. And this concept of lighting is not to be just left to the lighting designers or the illumination designers or anybody else. The architect when he's conceiving the building, like any other services, say air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, fire and life safety, like every other aspect, the lighting also has to be conceived at the time of design itself. If you're not able to do that and it is put on, it always looks like an add-on.
Right.
So I think it is very, very important then that when you start designing, you are conceiving how your building is going to talk to the public during daytime, during evening time, during night time, and during the early morning hours. So, from that aspect, the lighting is a very, very, the illumination, as far as we are concerned as architects, we are very much concerned about the illumination. Sometimes the landscape lighting kind of comes in clash with the building illumination.
Right.
The color of the building, the shade of the kind of, I would say, temperature of the light, and how it works and how it performs, so that your architectural design elements are perfectly highlighted and they are able to convey the message that the designer has conceived initially. Then it comes to how you want to do it, what kind of fixtures, what kind of lamps, what kind of shades that you choose. For that, you certainly need the services of a very good lighting designer like LOPEZ. His family has been there in the industry for a long time. We've tried to work together once in a while, but have not fructified. The brands have their own standards of setting up things and deciding who to hire. but we'll certainly be working.
So primarily, as I understand that a building you would like to visualize in different modes at different time, not only different parts of the day and night, also different times of the night also, right? From the evening, even to night conditions and all. And also it is quite possible that you want to highlight something which is highlighted in the part of the building facade in the day. The reverse aspects of the building can be highlighted in the night. So the building can read differently. Maybe the vision will be lit up at the night and the solid portions in the day. So you can actually create different expressions of the same elevation in the day and the night. Both you will have to consider while doing the design. Yeah, I think that's great. So my next question is to architect George John. Now, here is a particular aspect of challenge that is also emerging, that because, you know, as we see all our public buildings and big buildings, including hospitals, outdoor spaces, a lot of people are trying to come and enjoy outdoor spaces wherein they would like to spend some time in the evening. And then when you talk about different segments like hotels or airports or offices or even maybe shopping malls. So all these areas have got different kinds of lighting options. But still, somewhere the hospitality segment has to be exclusive. How do you think that lighting can make them look different? Because the ranges are huge and the experiences are blurring between an airport outdoor and a mall outdoor and all. How do you think still lighting can make a difference between this kind of experiences?
When it comes to outdoor lighting for different kinds of areas, see, one thing is when we, from the architects or architecture part of the thing, when we design a building, it's designed with the kind of sciography for the daytime. And then once the twilight sets in, it brings in a different kind of emotion. And what happens during the outdoor lighting, which usually happens in the evening and the night, is that we can really choreograph what the experiencer needs to experience. So the one thing about outdoor lighting is that it sort of brings out the details of architecture, and we can make the observers see what we want to make them see. So there is a lot of control over the architecture when it comes to the outdoor lighting. And again, when we look at the different segments like hospitality and airports and commercial buildings and then retail. So what happens is all these four different verticals of buildings play on different kind of emotions of the experiencer. So what happens is, now let's look at hospitality. We try to create a very much relaxed kind of lighting where a person feels much more at home, and it's not intimidating to him at all. At the same time, it sort of defines a lot of architecture and the landscape, and basically it sort of gets in a kind of a relaxed mood in the outdoor lighting in hotels and resorts. Of course, we have to decrease the light pollution as much as possible, so the birds and fauna is not disturbed when it comes to a resort. So that's another thing which we have to be very careful on when it comes to hospitality kind of lighting. And then when we talk about the emotion, it's much more relaxed. This guy is coming here in a very relaxed state of mind. So that's what we try to sort of promote by the lighting, outdoor lighting around. And also, like what I said earlier, we sort of bring in the kind of details of the architecture, and that can be well clearly defined to the person who's experiencing it. When it comes to a kind of retail or a mall, so there it's different. So a person is already having an energy gush when he comes or goes to a mall. So So what we do is we got to increase the energy levels in lighting. This is beside the point that the architecture is well lit up. The kind of hardscape around the retail part is like well lit up. I mean, depending on what the theme of the mall or the commercial space is. But we will be looking at much more dynamic, moving, and stereophonic lighting, which is like all over the person who's like walking into a mall to be happening. So here, the experience is to make sure the energy levels are actually brought into a much higher level than a person who's just entering. So the whole thing is, by the time you reach the interiors or inside of the mall or the retail space, he has a good amount of energy, and this can be done by the lighting around the commercial space. So that's something which we do when we design a mall or the lighting for the outdoor lighting for the mall. Of course, it should be well defined, the parking part, and also in a mall, outdoor lighting should take care of the security of the people who are like coming in. So it's certain areas where the pedestrians are, where they walk, it's got to be well lit, and lighting also can be a kind of pathfinder, well defined. So there's at no point confusion arises for the person who's a shopper and walking into the mall. At the same time, another part of commercial spaces today, these commercial spaces invite people to use their surroundings for their just for relaxing. They may not be shopping. They could be quite impulsive. They can come there, sit, relax, and then maybe use the food hall or the food courts, or it can. Just a casual guy walking around in the background space of a mall can become an impulsive buyer. So all those things are there. So there are certain areas where they can have a kind of a mood lighting where people can sit, talk, have a conversation. So that also can be encouraged in these kind of spaces. Then the third kind of space, when you look at airports, so that's kind of a very different kind of space, for the fact that people who experience an airport experiences it at various energy levels and at various emotional levels. People could be traveling for holidays, people could be traveling for business, people could be traveling for to meet the family, people could be going for education. So when it comes to it, it's a very we are playing with emotions, very different kind of emotions, and there is a lot of anxiety when a person goes into a airport. So one thing is well defined layered lighting, which sort of makes it very clear for a person, very directional, very wayfinding, because one thing is people don't have much time outside the airport except for people who are coming to receive people. But the main user or the traveler sort of just speeds across the space, the outdoor space in an airport. So what I would like is when we design is to make sure the silhouette of the building is well defined, because during the evenings that's the only kind of time where the architecture of the airport comes across to the user, because most of the time people fail to really experience the architecture from outside in an airport. Only after once they enter, they feel that wow, seen. But if you look at it, even in your experience, when you very few people remember how the outside of an airport really looks like, because there is hardly any time. You land there and you're immediately trying to check in and go out. So that's one thing. It should be well defined, no nonsense kind of a lighting. Of course, evenings can bring in a kind of because it's a big structure. The architecture itself is like huge. So lighting up the airport of the architecture is depending on the architecture, certain elements or the main element like the roofing or whatever, it's like high span roofing, those things can be very well lit, so it is seen from far away as you approach in your car to the airport. So that's also important, because airport, since you don't have much structures in the vicinity, the approach to the airport, which can be seen from kilometers, like, at least 3-4 kilometers, most of the airports. So that can be brought about in the evenings. Maybe during daytime, you don't see much architecture, but the elements of the architecture can be brought live during evenings and in the outdoor lighting of airports. So these are the different kinds of spaces, how we can sort of light it up in a very different way, and also how it affects the emotions of the end user. That's it.
So like all of the things that is coming out of the discussion is that, well, obviously every single lighting project is coming up with a lot of options, and also lighting products are coming up with a lot of technological innovations. But when it comes to hospitality projects and outdoor spaces, Mr. Lopez, how do you see the importance of technology driving over or overriding the options of the software aspect of lighting design? Which should predominate or guide, or whether the technology should be hidden to give you the desired mode? So if you can throw some light on that.
Thanks, Madhu, great question. And hello, everybody, nice to meet you all. One of my biggest concerns about technology is that sometimes it tends to take center stage. And we have to remember that, at one point in time, even the incandescent bulb was new technology, right? And today it has sort of phased into oblivion. Much as I love it and much as I would like to use it in projects, there is more standards that are against it than for it. I believe that design, and in the company of some really great designers here, the technology should follow. So you start with the process of understanding firstly what you are dealing with, first in the form of the built mass, then in terms of the people that are actually occupying that space. And that's where landscape and facade play a really important role, because if I look at the total percentage of people that are actually visiting a hospitality project, they would be, let's say, 200 in a day that would actually enter the premises, 1,000 people in the day that would enter for other facilities other than staying in the hotel. But they will be in excess of 10,000 people that would actually view the facade of the building, see the landscape. We have to understand that we are designing for all these people, right? So starting with the main operator, he will have a certain vision, continuing with the architect and his plan for what he envisages for this particular space. But the story has to involve the people who are actually experiencing the space. And that is where this role of both typology and time come into the picture. Typology from the point of view of, is it a resort hotel? What is the feeling that you want that person to experience in that space? Is it a business hotel? Your requirements for both of them are at two ends of the spectrum. So to understand that, translate it into the design, and then use technology to sort of help you in that process. Unfortunately, there are periods of times where technology takes the forefront, and then we are lost in this, malaise of which is the latest technology to use and what is the best way to use it. I think one of the key elements that any good designer should follow is first define your brief and then see the best way in which technology would help you.
Yeah, I think so. So we have to understand, like especially as you mentioned in the hospitality projects, we have to understand the user and the experiences, who is behind the scene, who is into the scene, and who is outside the scene to watch the same building. So it's very important that you say that 200 people will be staying in the hotel, but 2,000 people will be watching it from outside. So the outdoor space cannot be neglected. and landscape.
Ah.
So when you look at the outdoor spaces, now we are moving more into technological discussion. And again, I'll come back to you for the same question. So I have found that there are books and standards which is talking about lux levels. And there are set rules, maybe there was a time when we have to look into that. But is it more of a indicator to design the lighting solution? And I don't think it's so much important today. I think it's more to do with the maybe some color temperature issues. So if you can talk about what is the mandate to begin with the work when you're talking of lighting design. So I'm asking Linus again. Yes.
Yeah, I think look, standards are a good thing, but they shouldn't define a design, right? And lux levels are, they are a part of the whole narrative, the design discussion, but it's a small part, and it should not be placed at the center of or the starting point of the discussion. And I think as lighting designers engaging with an architectural community and engaging with the client base, it's actually the onus is on us to extend that design dialogue, to make people understand that it is significantly more than just the design of lux levels, which should, dictate the key elements of your design.
Yeah.
Lighting per se is it's developing a series of compositions. Anybody entering that space is looking at a composition. Any artist, his first role would be to actually envision what it is that he finally wants to do. And to a large extent, any good architectural design practice is looking at that composition. And light, like life, is actually quite relative, So how you arrange contrasts using light, how you use light to sort of direct people's attention, how do you use light to make people feel comfortable in that space, So it's not necessarily that you're always competing with making one space brighter than the other. Unfortunately, when that enters into the dialogue, we have to be able to extend that design discussion to say, let's talk about contrast. Let's talk about how does a person feel comfortable in the space. Let's talk about the material and how that material is responding to the light.
Yeah.
These are things that we have to look at when we're talking about design, beyond just the lux level.
Yeah. So I can see that it's important to not to go by the lux level, and in fact, designing the contrast is important. And sometimes, in one of the projects, I learned how to design darkness for a project to get a bigger contrast. So when it is coming to all these aspects of impossible to possible, and also the wide range of options and moods. So Mr. Bhalla, may I ask you that how is the product range getting ready for these opportunities? And I mean, how is, like, for all the technological innovations, like the optics, maybe the optics are actually going to be the drivers for this kind of modes, maybe the IoT, I don't know which one is going to be taking the lead role in giving the possibilities that is being conceived by all these creative architects and the designers.
Yeah, Madhupji, see, we've been learning a lot from, renowned architects like you. So a lot of products which are being developed and which we have in our range are in consonance with the requirements, whatever we are discussing as on day. Like one of the technologies which we people are working on, as Anilji mentioned or Chandrashekhar also mentioned, that, at different timings of the day, there have to be different kinds of lightings. You need to have probably, earlier there were only dimmable solutions, that during the peak hours you can have the full contrast, and during the off-peak hours you can dim it to a certain level. But today it is all dealing with controlling the light rather than only a dimmable solution. So more and more of the architects and planners, they would like to go in for a waxing and waning effect, matching something to the dusk to night and, night to dawn kind of effect. So we are working on technologies wherein you can have poles, you can have bollards, you can have the ground burials, which can provide those kind of effects when it comes to the landscape lighting segment. And similarly, it goes for facade lighting also, wherein we are providing, as on date, a lot of facade lighting projects with not only with DMX technologies, we are doing it with the RDM technologies too. So sometimes, normally the buildings, normally our facilities will be having the same kind of facade, illuminating the same kind of building with the same kind of effect. But when you go in for latest technologies like RDM technologies, you can program it, control it, so as to have, during different days, during different seasons, you can have different kind of lightings for the facade of the same building. You can also pick and choose what are the features you would like to highlight, and what are the features which just gel with the building, and you don't want to highlight at certain times of the day. So a lot of technologies and products which are being worked out as on date, like we used to see during earlier days when the poles and the bollards, they were only of cylindrical shape or of rectangular shape, which were being used in the landscape lighting. Now we are designing a lot of other shapes and forms which can give the user a very different kind of experience. And these basics, what we keep in mind while doing our lighting design, we have a team of over 20 light planners also. So basics that we keep in mind are, the lighting levels, which are just to be, as Linus ji mentioned, they are not the center point, but they are one of the guiding parameters. The lighting overall should provide a good experience to the user. It should not only provide a visual guidance, it should also provide a soothing experience and a relaxing experience, so that the user gets the perception and the overall experience that he is using a hospitality segment project. He's there in the hospitality segment.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So as I understand from your discussion that there are yes, the lighting industry mentioned, and today also mostly to be hidden. And then we have got to have the landscape lightings where some of them cannot be hidden. So then they have to be designed as a product design to be part of the landscape. So obviously, as a landscape, now when you're working in the outdoor environment, consider landscape design also playing an important role, and how the lighting. Suppose you want to have a particular element of landscape aspect or a tree to be highlighted. So how do you go about with that? And also somewhere maybe you want to have the light itself to be a visible product design within the landscape. So whether you consider, this is an open forum to discuss. How do you consider that? Do you get into the designing of the product designing of the feature within the landscape, which is going to hold the lights? And Mr. Chandrasekhar, would you like to talk on this?
Sorry, the question is to me. Actually, regarding this landscape lighting, particularly when you were talking about the fixtures to be seen and other fixtures which are not to be seen. Mostly, I feel in that sense that in a landscape designing, when there are pathways and when there is a general lighting, obviously those fixtures are seen. And we can also relate to the pathway in a different fashion. But most of the bollard lights or pole lights or things like that, there the fixtures are seen. So the visual appearance of those fixtures is very important. Kind of a light that is very important. So basically, when you are designing the lighting, my most important conviction in my architectural designing and when I design the lights is I have a very big conviction that light has a capacity. I'm talking in a very visual architectural sense, that light has a capacity to create sound. You people may not, I'm trying to understand. And the darkness creates the silence. So that particular movement in the landscape or within the building, when I concentrate on my lighting, I also concentrate on that sound which is created by the lighting. The more the light has, more the capacity to create more sound. And then as you go towards the darkness, it creates a less sound. So if you want to make your movement within the your designed environment very interesting, you must take into consideration this aspect also. I'm trying to tell you this aspect because probably it will not get covered in your questions. So I'm just trying to.
I know this is very interesting. In fact, this is
little bit of convictions, you know. So very consciously I try and design my lighting along with my lighting designer. This sound aspect is very important because that controls the mood and the psyche of the occupant of that particular space.
Absolutely.
It's been a truly enlightening discussion, and it's always nice to hear the different perspectives that go into design, as much from the duration, when it should start and what is the right time in which to begin work, as for the different understanding. This was such a beautiful allegory, Mr. Kanetkar, about light as music, and much as, we have a word as cacophony for sound, but there is an equivalent of cacophony for light. And I think the first and foremost attempt, especially when lighting in landscapes, is that, while in interior spaces, you are in an enclosed environment, in the outside, we have to gain respect for the night sky. We have to understand what it is that, our bodies are trained to do, which is relax, recuperate, rejuvenate in the night. And it's interesting that it's not just human, but it extends to the rest of the inhabitants of this planet, right? The plant, the animal life, the birds. So it's important that when we talk about external lighting, we talk more about the darkness. We start with darkness and then sort of add a layer of music, as you so beautifully and poetically described, so that there is harmony. And I think that is one of the key elements that we can all take away from this. As lighting designers today in India, we are in a situation where we have to work together as a team. This collaborative process is one of the high points of design in the construction industry. Hubbed around an architect or a landscape designer, the integration of all these other services working together is so important. And the role of the lighting designer as it emerges to sort of be part of the conductor for this orchestra is increasingly significant. So really a wonderful session. And I think going forward, there is a lot of food for thought, a lot of things to consider when we talk about design, and the importance of people's sort of emotions and using that as the center for our design is extremely important takeaway from this. Thank you very much, everybody.
So great. I mean, this is a fantastic thing to take away today from the discussion, that although we are almost in the finishing stage, but I think the discussions should continue either in different forums. But today that we got to know how architects can get involved right from the beginning in terms of the designing of the facades, considering lighting as an important aspect, how product availability, which is changing every day, is making you going to the higher task of changing your ways of creating options for your facade design. How the softer aspects of the lighting has to ultimately predominate and play a role for the changing modes required. How to design darkness, and how the darkness can talk about the silence, and brightness can talk about the music. So it's like, again, talking about the same words of architecture. Like architecture is frozen music, so is lighting at the same time. So thank you everybody for contributing to today's discussion and coming across the panel discussion in such a short notice from your hectic schedule of meetings, office travel, and obviously upcoming holiday commitments. So it was indeed an illuminating session where we got to know so many things about lighting, and it's going to continue. And thank you, iDAC, for organizing this event, and JAQUAR Lighting for supporting this event. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for this nice session. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.